Okay,
So,
that's my cue.
go ahead.
Okay. Hi, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our webinar on phase 2 of the Industrial Technology Validation Pilot. My name is Leslie, and you can't see my face, but I am helping to run the back end of the webinar. So before we actually get into the discussion, I do want to very quickly run through a few housekeeping items with you. So let's go ahead and do that. So first off, thank you so much for joining. We're really happy that you could attend, but we will ask that you please keep your mic muted throughout the presentation, just so we can keep the flow of things going. If you do have any questions for us, please feel free at any time during the presentation to chat them through the Zoom chat. And we have Amy Pevsner from LBNL. She is renamed herself on this call to Ask Me Amy. So if you have any questions, please just chat them to her. And then at the end of the discussion, we will end up going through all of that. In case anyone that signed up has missed this, or you just want to go back to view this later, I would like to let you know that we will be recording this. It might take us a few days just to get this posted on YouTube and then up on the website. However, once we have done that, we will be sure to give you a notification through email that we have that posted. And last but not least, to keep things interactive and fun and keep everyone awake, we do hope that you will participate in our interactive polls that we're managing through Slido throughout the presentation. So just to make sure that everyone's set up and you do have the ability to participate in that, I'm just going to very quickly and easily walk you through how to do that. And voting in our polls will be really simple. To do that, you're just going to pull up your web browser, either on the computer that you're using right now, or maybe your cell phone. Just pull up your web browser and go to www.slido.com. And once you're there, you're going to see a screen that looks like this. And all you have to do is type in this code, ITV Web, and then it will put you into our poll and our chat room. So I'll give everyone just a minute just to make sure that they can do that, though I do have some other reminders on these other slides. And so actually, before we get into the discussion, let's do a few just interactive polls really quickly, just to make sure that these polls are working and just, get everyone engaged in the discussion. So to start off, who is joining us today? What sector represents your organization? Do you fall into any of these categories? We're just trying to get an idea of who's on the line with us. And once again, if you're still trying to get into Slido, you can just go to slido.com, you type in ITV Web, and here is our polling in live format. Okay, this is awesome. We have mostly manufacturers and technology vendors, a few others. Okay, looks like we have 32 votes so far. I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to move on to the next one. Oh, looks like that's out of order, actually. Sorry, let me go back to this. There we go. My bad. Sorry, guys. Okay, so next question is, are you familiar with the DOE's network of national labs? Have you ever worked with them before? Are you familiar with their capabilities? Forgive me while it's taking a second for my screen up here to update. But in case anyone wasn't familiar, the national labs, the DOE has a network of 17 national labs that are spread across the nation, and they lead research and innovation across a wide variety of topics and scientific disciplines. And it may not be very well known amongst the general public, but actually you and your organization can reach out and work with the national labs in many different capacities. And one fantastic example of this is the ITV pilot, which we're actually going to be exploring today. And this one is specifically headed by Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. We have several folks on the call today who will be presenting from there, as well as DOE's Advanced Manufacturing Office. Okay, so actually, I'm kind of surprised that there's a decent amount of people that have worked previously with the labs before. A lot of you seem to be familiar with that, and that's great. Okay. And let's see, what was the next question that we had here? All right, so the last question I have before we get into discussion, what performance categories are you most interested in seeing impacted through the testing of this new technology? We have technologies that are, we can look at energy efficiency, we can do water, waste, Okay. Sorry, forgive me for 1 second. Oh, there we go. Helps if I put the questions in order. Okay. All right, so GHG emissions and energy, and I think you guys were able to select a few different options here, but I think that's kind of probably what we were expecting to see. So I don't take up too much more time, I will actually now switch back to the slides and we can kick off the presentation with Dr. Jillian from DOE's AMO office, and she will get into the actual pilot.
Thanks, Leslie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. My name is Jillian Romstall, and I'm a fellow supporting DOE's Advanced Manufacturing Office, and I'm the Technical Partnerships Lead for the Industrial Technology Validation Pilot. I'm going to start by providing a brief introduction of the ITV pilot, and then I'll turn it over to my colleagues from the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab to dive a little deeper in the program. And so as a reminder, if you have questions as we go, please send them to Ask Me, Amy Pevsner, and we'll do our best to get to them at the end of the presentation. So this pilot really arose from the fact that many of DOE's industrial partners have set aggressive energy efficiency and sustainability goals, and now they're thinking about how they're going to get there and the role that innovation and leveraging new technologies can play. So DOE has been focusing on understanding the challenges associated with deploying new technologies and how DOE can help overcome these challenges. And we've been hearing from our partners and stakeholders that field validation is an area where government can really play a key role and help. So why field validation? Well, field validation provides research and data to prove out technology claims and help bring innovative technologies out of R&D and into the market. While there are generally higher levels of investment in R&D, as well as private investments once a technology has been verified, there is a significant gap around the technology demonstration phase that results in many promising technologies not making it to market. And we refer to this as the technology valley of death. So through this pilot, DOE is aiming to help overcome these challenges by assisting in field validation for technologies that are high impact, so will lead to significant reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, water use, and waste creation, and have the potential to be deployed on a broad scale. Next slide. So since most technologies are developed in a bench scale setting, field validations help to verify if a technology is capable of delivering in real world operational settings. So in doing so, this pilot will help to promote innovation, optimization of industrial processes and resiliency, reduce the risks associated with testing and deploying new technologies by helping companies differentiate impactful technologies from snake oil. Additionally, we plan to share the results from the field validations and promote widespread adoption of any successful technologies into the industrial and manufacturing space. And the results from the field validation will help inform research and development and drive commercial markets. Next slide. So how exactly will the pilot work? You can participate as either a technology developer, vendor, or as an industrial host site. Technology developers can apply individually or through a joint application with the host site, and industrial host sites that are considering adopting an emerging technology can apply with a specific technology in mind, and my colleague Paul Schaefer would go into more details about this. So once a technology and host site have been identified, the technology will be installed at the industrial host site, and the DOE National Lab experts will then come in to validate the potential of any selected technology, to verify performance improvement claims, to project cost savings and scalability, and then to share that information broadly through publicly available M&V reports and case studies so that others can learn from these field validations. And a key benefit that I'll add here is that this program is really providing a DOE stamp of approval for technologies that are successful, and this can really play a pivotal role in spurring further investments and facilitating market adoption. Next slide. And this program really wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the leadership of our colleagues across federal government who run the programs that the Industrial Technology Validation Pilot is based on. This includes the GSA's Green Proving Ground program. This is a really successful program that has evaluated over 80 next generation building technologies in real world operational settings. And they've done a fantastic job showcasing the results. And we're really hoping to replicate what they have done in the industrial space. In addition, there's also the DoD's ESTCP program, and our EERE colleagues in the Buildings Technology Office also partner with GSA through their High Impact Technology Catalyst program. And so I'm mentioning these because if you're interested in learning more about the types of reports that will be produced through the ITV pilot, I would encourage you to explore these different programs. Next slide. So this is the wonderful team that we have working on this program, and they really bring a lot of experience and expertise in energy efficiency, energy management, as well as deep subject matter expertise in a broad range of industrial technologies. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Paul Schaefer from Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. He is the Senior Program Advisor for the ITV pilot, and we'll dive a little deeper into the program. Over to you, Paul.
Next slide, please. Yeah, hi, everybody. I am going to first take a closer look at the request for proposal, and you can think of it more like an application. So the first part of the request for proposal is 4 pages, goes over terms, priorities, technologies accepted, and the scoring criteria. So for the terms, we just want to make sure we're all speaking the same language. For the priorities, we go over what we're looking for in an application. Then we go over the technologies that are accepted and define what those are. And then for the scoring criteria, we tell you how we weight the various questions in the application. The second part of the request for proposal is what you all fill out. It's 4 pages. I believe it's 17 questions, and we limit it to 10 pages plus any attachments when it's completed by you all. And the first part of it has questions about the vendor and the technology. And the second part, which is optional, has questions about the host site. Next slide. So what do we mean by technology? We're actually pretty broad. So the technology has to be applied in the industrial sector, and we're defining the industrial sector as the manufacturing sector, water treatment, wastewater treatment, also mining, oil and gas extraction, agriculture, I think also clean rooms. And we're pretty broad in what a technology can be. It can be equipment, it can be hardware, it can be software, it can be sensors, it can be a combination of those things, but it has to be something that's retrofit to an existing industrial system that improves its performance. And in a couple of slides from now, we're going to talk about what we mean by performance improvement. And the system that it's retrofit to has to be some part of some type of manufacturing process or step or used in those other industries that I just talked about. Next slide, please. So what do we mean when we say performance improvement? And you're going to hear probably everybody here talk about GHG emissions reductions, decarbonization. That's really a priority of the current administration and a priority of the Advanced Manufacturing Office. And in terms of performance improvement, you can think about it in terms of intensity. Really doing more with less. Making the same amount of product using less energy, or making more product using the same energy you are now. And Shankar will go into this in more detail, but it's going to be a comparison to the existing situation at the site after this new emerging technology has been installed. So like I said, one of the biggest things we're looking for is something that reduces GHG emissions, and that can be through energy efficiency, it could be through fuel switching, it could be through electrification. Also, obviously we're looking for energy efficiency. We're looking for water use reduction, creating less wastewater, and also creating less solid waste. Next slide, please. What do we mean when we say vendor? So a vendor can be an inventor, it could be an incubator, it could be another national lab, it could be a equipment distributor, integrator type organization, or it could be just a plain old equipment manufacturer. We'd also consider technologies that were developed kind of in-house at a manufacturing plant to be used at that plant itself, as long as they're, it could be used in other plants and other sectors and things like that. Next slide, please. So stages considered. So we are looking for emerging innovative technologies. They can be pre-commercial. They've been tested in a lab and proven out at at a pilot scale, but not tested in full scale yet. It could be early commercial technologies, ones that are just entering the commercial market space. It could be a new application of an existing commercialized technology, something that's being used in a different sector where it's never been used before, or a different end use case. And we're also looking and considering what we would call underutilized technologies. So these are things that are fully commercialized and maybe used in Europe or Asia or whatever, but just not broadly accepted in the United States. And now I think I'm passing it over to Leslie.
Okay, so it's Slido time again. Thank you, Paul. And give me 1 second while I get this up here. I need to get my Slido questions sorted. But yeah, so we have a few questions right now, I think focusing more on the actual technology portion. Are you currently considering any new and innovative technologies in your facility? Let's see, I'm going to open up the next poll and we will take a look at what you guys are looking at. Let's see here. Science concern, technologies. Oh. Here we go. Sorry about that, folks. All right, so now it is live. Are you currently considering any new and innovative technologies to improve your performance? Is there anything that you're looking at? It seems like a lot of you guys already have something in mind. Some of you, it doesn't apply because maybe you're not, at the manufacturing facility. And some of you are maybe just looking to learn more options and see what is available to you to participate. Okay, so that's great. All right, really quickly, I'm going to go to the next one. What kinds of solutions or technologies are you interested in testing in your facility? And I left this one as like an open-ended answer. We didn't want to make any assumptions about what you folks were maybe interested in seeing. But if you have something in mind, and it looked like from the last poll question that you did have some ideas, what types of things are you interested in looking at? And going back to one of the earlier poll questions that we had, it seemed like there was a bigger focus on energy efficiency and greenhouse gas emission reduction, but there also was I believe there were a few water and waste focus technologies in there as well. Okay, so looks like we're getting a good variety of things in here. CO2 reduction, solar thermal, and this keeps changing. Okay, really interesting. Oh, and this is another cool thing about the word cloud, that the more people maybe write in the same answer, the bigger those words or suggestions will get. Okay, so there's actually a pretty good assortment of things here, but it does seem like we are seeing a few themes being repeated. Okay. Since everyone's typing this in, I'll maybe give this one a few more seconds than I did the previous one. Just a thumbs up. Thank you, whoever did that. Okay. And then I think we have one more set of questions I'm going to launch now. So in regards to implementing technology, as we kind of discussed, there are several concerns that companies might have about actually seeing this through. So we were just wondering, what would be your biggest concern or your biggest barrier in terms of implementing a new technology? I think there are a lot of different ways that can affect your facility processes. So I believe this is live right now. I hope I'm not experiencing. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if that was me for a second. Okay. And so I know you all are reading through the list right now, but I can just go ahead and read off. So there's the cost of purchasing or implementation. Sometimes you can test a new technology, but there's always the chance that maybe it doesn't achieve the results that you were looking for. Whenever you do test a new technology, you would have to do this during production, and so that might have an effect on your facility operation. Does not apply. Of course, it takes time to set all of this up and to test it. So, doing that on top of your other job responsibilities, and then also potentially questioning whether or not you chose the right technology for your needs. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to suss all of that out. Okay, this is great. This is really helpful for us and interesting for discussion. So again, so I don't take up too much more time, I'm going to toggle back to the presentation here. Let me forward through these poll questions, and I believe, Paul, I am kicking it back to you.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. In terms of the RFP evaluation process, the biggest thing we're looking for are emerging technologies that can be replicated and will have the potential to save a lot of energy and reduce a lot of carbon throughout the United States. Can the technology be used throughout your sector? Can it be used in other sectors or in other processes, and really determining how much energy it would save if it was deployed across the United States. Obviously, we're looking for emerging innovative technologies that have high performance. We will take a look at the cost savings and the return on investment. That's part of the application. And if it's a technology that costs hundreds of millions of dollars and would never ever be implemented by an industrial site, it probably wouldn't be accepted. I talked about the deployment potential, technical risk. Are there technical risks associated with the technology? And then finally, can we do the M&V on it? It has to be a technology where we're able to come in and do draw a boundary around the system, establish a baseline, and then be able to see how much the performance is really improved or not. And Shankar will go over that a little bit more later. Next slide, please. Yeah, we talked about most of this already. There's kind of some sort of binary questions up front that the application would have to pass. It has to be used in the industrial sector. It has to be an emerging innovative technology. It has to be broadly applicable in at least one sector, but the more sectors, the better. So that's kind of a first screen that we use before we even start scoring the application. Next slide. So this goes through our scoring criteria, and I won't spend too much time on it. I would definitely recommend you all download the RFP and take a look at this piece in particular. But it just goes over the various metrics that we use and how those metrics are weighted to come up with a score. And we're hoping to get lots of applications in for this phase 2 of ITV, and looking forward to it. Next slide. this kind of takes a couple steps back and goes over kind of the big picture of the various participant contributions. So this all is funded by the U.S. Department of Energy's Advanced Manufacturing Office. And then they're using both Berkeley Lab and Oak Ridge to kind of lead the effort and also do the measurement and verification that Jillian discussed. And then obviously the other participants are, the technology vendor and then also the host site. Next slide, please. So a little peek inside of phase one, which is well underway. We were a little surprised that the applications or the proposals that we got were actually all kind of water related, which we weren't necessarily expecting. But so we have a good project going on at a Toyota automobile manufacturing site. It's a water treatment technology on a cooling loop that serves both industrial air compressors and chillers. Got a similar project going on at Nissan, again, a water treatment project on a cooling tower. The membrane system one listed there is kind of an interesting electrification play. It's using membranes to concentrate black liquor before sending it to the evaporators, and then the evaporators will use less energy because the black liquor will be coming at a much more concentrated level. And then the final ones, other folks are going to talk about later on in this presentation, at least one of them. So the first one is another actual water treatment plant on a chiller cooling loop. And then the one that they're going to talk about later in this presentation is also water treatment for an oily wastewater stream. Next slide, please. So yes, we're accepting applications for phase two. It's a little different from phase one in that phase one, it had to be hosted at a better partners site. I mean, a better plant site. That is no longer a requirement. Again, we're placing increased emphasis on greenhouse gas emissions reductions. And this one is kind of more focusing on the innovator vendor community as well. Next slide, please. So processing and onboarding, we'll be reviewing the RFPs in July and hopefully making selections towards the end of July. And with phase one, we found the whole project life cycle varies quite a bit. I mean, some of the phase one projects, we were able to use existing data to establish the baseline. So we were able to skip over some steps. And some of the projects, they weren't super weather dependent or seasonally dependent. So we didn't have to take as much M&V after the technology was installed. So a lot of these numbers can vary quite a bit depending on the technology. And in terms of, I just want to emphasize again, in terms of the funding and agreements. So, the project details and costs between the vendor and the host site, we're not involved with that at all. It's up to the host site and the vendor to get this new technology installed at the site. And in most cases before that, we need to come into the host site, do some M&V on the established existing system prior to that. And for right now, DOE will not be providing any direct funding to either the host site or or the vendor. We are doing the M&V. If we need to buy equipment to do the M&V, specialized equipment, we will do that as well. That's something that we can fund. Yeah, next slide, please. Again, this is a typical timeline, but I wouldn't pay too much attention to it. Really depends on the technology, and it's very project specific. Next slide. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Shankar Ernie.
Thanks, Paul. My name is Shankar Ernie. I lead the M&V side of things here. Just to kind of walk you through the M&V process, there's a 5-phase process. The first is planning, where we look at the technology and some of the requirements imposed by the site and constraints, and then decide what the right M&V approach should be. This kind of becomes the foundation for the M&V going forward. So based on the M&V approach that we drop, we come up with a M&V plan, which is somewhat more refined than an M&V approach. And then we decide what monitoring equipment they currently have, the site currently has, and the technology has, and then see if there are any additional sensors or loggers that need to be installed to determine the baseline and post-installation side of things. So phase 2 is where we characterize what the existing system is doing or equipment is doing in order to understand the current energy or water or waste from a waste standpoint. Again, it's a data collection and followed by analysis, and then we generate a baseline report again that essentially characterizes what they currently have, the site currently has. And then we go into the phase 3, where we look at the implementation, where the technology a vendor installs the equipment with support some other parties, and then we get in there. And try to make sure that the operating conditions are being met from a commissioning standpoint, and then also gather some data to make sure that the systems are doing what they're supposed to be doing. This is kind of a trial period. We want to make sure that the systems are performing the way that they're intended to perform. The post-implementation side is this is about years worth of data. We want to collect years worth of data, maybe a little less, depending on the technology and what's it's affecting. Again, this is data collection followed by some analysis to see what the systems are doing, the new systems are doing. And then we go into the reporting phase, where we generate this big report that essentially captures all the evaluation work that we have done. So baseline, implementation side of things, and the post-implementation side. So again, it's basically a culmination of all the work that we have done. Again, this report is going to be modeled after some of our sister programs, the GPG and other things that have been mentioned before, and also the second part of the report, which I'm going to get into, also going to look at what not only the savings at that one site, but also what the savings would be if you were to extend it beyond that to other sectors and to other industries within that sector. Next slide, please. So the report, as I mentioned, it's going to have it's basically a culmination of all the things that we have done as part of our evaluation. It's going to have two parts to it. It essentially captures what has been observed at that one site in terms of baseline, what was there, and then what was actually installed, and then look at the savings or performance improvement, and then we capture that in the report. And the second part of the report is where we do some projections to see what the savings would be or what the impact would be if you were to install this technology at other industries within that sector, and also if you were to extend it beyond that sector. So this is somewhat, we do some projections. Again, this depends on what kind of data we have, but that's the plan, to kind of see what the savings impact would be if you were to kind of extend it beyond that one site. Yeah, and the other thing that we want to capture within this report is any impact on the operational conditions. One thing we want to make sure is that the site is not negatively affected from an operational standpoint, or from a quality standpoint, or from other more important things than energy. And then we want to capture some of the lessons learned, not only from an M&V standpoint to improve our process, but also to see how future projects can be conducted. Next slide, please. So again, this is again, we modeled ourselves after the GSA's Proving Ground and other sister programs. So we're going to have four reports. One is as I said, it's a full-scale M&V report that captures all the evaluation work that we've done as part of this work. And then a 4-page high-level summary that captures the highlights for the project, and a single-page graphic overview. So if you want to see what these look like, you can go to GSA's Proving Ground website. You'll get a sense of what these look like. Next slide, please. So as Paul mentioned, we have with us Katie Stepensky from Cleveland Cliffs, who is part of our pilot, phase 1 pilot. She has they've installed 2 different technologies. She's going to talk about some of her experiences being part of our pilot.
Hello, everyone. So first, I'll just do an overview of Cleveland Cliffs and who we are. Cleveland Cliffs is the largest flat-rolled steel manufacturer in North America. Cliffs is a fully integrated mill from raw materials, direct reduced iron and ferrous scrap to primary steel making and downstream sampling, tooling, and tubing. Cleveland Works is located in Cleveland, Ohio. We have 2 blast furnaces, 2 BOF steel facilities, hot strip mill, cold mill, tandem mill, hot dip galv line, and a pickle line. We are currently doing 2 phase 1 ITV projects. One is for the electrocoagulation system for the oily waste system at our water treatment plant for the hot strip mill and cold mill. And we also have an electrochemical system for a cooling tower for one of the BOF facilities. I just want to touch on a few points of our experience with the ITV pilot so far. Beginning with our motivation for participating. Cliffs is a member of the DOE Better Plants program, and we're utilizing that value partnership we have with the Better Plants program and leverage the experience and expertise of their personnel in pilot testing projects. They are helping us to develop new ideas and design an effective pilot test for new technology to enhance our existing systems. Lastly, they're adding value and tools to the process to help us reach our environmental, sustainability, and energy goals as a facility and a company. Moving on to some challenges we have faced in starting the ITV pilot. COVID has definitely been a huge challenge for us. It limits the amount of in-person meetings and on-site walkthroughs. There's only so much we can explain through drawings, pictures, and emails for an in-depth knowledge of our process and layout. However, I think we were able to overcome these and make progress on our pilot. Our application and pilot are not typical for a traditional ITV pilot on the electrocoagulation project. Instead of the before and after, we are running the electrocoagulation as a slip steam in parallel with our existing operation. Fortunately, the experts at the DOE were able to adjust and work with our unique system layout and provide valuable advice for an effective pilot. Moving on to some of the expectations we had going into this partnership, we were looking for an unbiased report of findings and benefits that came with the new technology. DOE providing an independent and unique perspective on our existing water treatment, the test technology, and the pilot program design. We also would like to use this report as a tool to present continuous improvement project ideas. And lastly, just to touch on the experience as the host site. There have been a lot of questions from the team we've been working with that required insight from many colleagues and encouraged us to think deeper and reevaluate details about the equipment and process flow and where we can make the most meaningful improvements in our system. And just a final note, while work continues with the ITV program, has met our expectations, and overall it has been a very positive experience working with the DOE. Thanks.
I think we can now turn it over to Michael Boyko from Dynamic Waters. Do you want to take it away, Michael?
Yeah, hopefully you guys can hear me okay. We're actually traveling to another steel mill right now. You know, for us, we actually started with the Green Proving Ground program back in 2016. And, you know, working with the DOE on several different applications, it's been great for expanding the footprint of the technology, the recognition, and the validation work that you guys do has been critical for market acceptance, because a lot of facilities just don't have that understanding of how to implement new technologies. And so it's been very valuable for us, you know, working with groups like Cleveland Cliffs and the DOE to basically have that showcase to expose the technologies and their functionality and how they can incorporate into the various processes. So we've actually, you know, in our experience over the last 5+ years working with the government validation studies and the various labs, it's really given us a lot of background, you know, validation for a lot of other clients. And, you know, as I mentioned, we're actually visiting, you know, other facilities in the region that we're doing a lot of these pilot studies, and that's opened up again a lot more opportunity for companies like ours that are really developing these emerging technologies.
Great, thanks, Michael. I think we can go to the next slide then, if you're all finished, unless you have more to say.
No, I'm good.
Okay, thanks so much for sharing your experience. Leslie.
Yeah. Okay. So we do have a few other Slido questions that are left, but before we get into that, I actually wanted to say, since we're nearing the end here, if you do have any questions for the team that you would like us to address during the Q&A portion, go ahead and put that into the Zoom chat. Again, you can go ahead and chat, ask me, Amy. She will be collecting this. And let's see, Jillian, how do you feel about this? Do you want me to run through these last 3 Slido questions, or I can just make them active and we can head straight to the Q&A? What do you think in terms of time?
I think you can go ahead and run through them.
Okay, cool. Then let me go ahead and I will pull this up. Let me launch the last one. And then I think these last 3 questions, it's more about, I guess, just your interest in participating in the program. Okay, so if you are interested in joining, in what capacity would you be joining? How many tech vendors do we have that are interested? How many host sites are on the line? We just want to get an idea of what we're working with here. Okay, so it looks like we have a decent amount of innovators so far, but we have only 16 votes in, so we'll just leave this up. And again, if you're done voting or if you have any questions, now's probably the best time to go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and Amy will be reading through that and she'll be prepared to start that off. Okay. Looks like votes are stalling, so I'm going to go ahead and I will activate this next one here. All right, so if you are interested in participating in the validation project, but you're currently lacking a committed partner in organization, I was trying to be funny, which of these represents you? Are you a technology vendor, but you need to find a host site? Are you a host site, but you need to find a technology vendor? Do you already have your perfect pairing? Or this last one, no, I don't need the technology validation. Okay, cool. That's exciting that some people actually already have their pairing here. Okay, and some people that are looking to learn more before committing, that makes perfect sense. All right, I'll give that just a few more seconds. And real quick, I'm going to transition into the last one while y'all are getting the last votes in. All right, now that one is live. Okay, so if you are looking for a partnering organization, would you like to participate in any kind of like matchmaking event if you need help getting set up or if you need help finding that extra or that other partner? So yeah, help me find my match. Not sure, it depends on who's available. Explore some options or maybe you have your own. So yeah, we're just gonna get a quick head count of who would like some of our services. Okay. Cool. Well, at this point, I mean, we don't really have a set slide for the Q&A. I think that will just be monitoring the chat. So I can leave this up for another second, but then I'm going to toggle over to our contact slide. So I can be quiet, and Amy, if you wanted to get into the Q&A, well, I think let's go ahead and do that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Leslie. And so I am we received a lot of great questions in the chat. So we can run through those really quick because I'm sure many of you also have the same questions. And then if you have additional questions, please feel free to also add those into the chat. So the first question we received, are the partner or host site plants responses? So this is on the RFP or the application. Are they required to be within a 10-page limit? And so just to clarify, so the details of the questions will not contribute to the 10-page limit. So the details within the questions. So you can leave those in. Don't feel like you have to remove them. We will not penalize you. It's just that the content that you provide to us will need to be under that 10-page limit. So the next question is, with the consideration of GHG reduction, would your program consider technologies that retrofit fossil fuel plants? So improving energy efficiency there. And so the answer is yes, as long as the savings performance improvement from these retrofits are greater than 15% of the baseline consumption.
So I've got a question on that question. When we talking about retrofitting fossil fuel plants, are we talking about utility scale power plants or something else there?
And feel free to drop into the chat who had power plants is the response.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to get back to you on that because power plants is not really within what we're currently considering the industrial sector.
Okay. All right. And would you require us to have a real world scale working prototype to participate in the ITV pilot? Would a lab scale prototype be too early to participate? So the demonstration does not necessarily have to be at full scale, but it does need to take place at a active manufacturing, water treatment, clean room, et cetera, facility. So, we're currently, evaluating some smaller scale demonstrations. So that will not disqualify you. And the next question is, will the slides be made available after the meeting in addition to the recording? And the answer is yes. We will be posting them on our website, our ITV website, and we will also be emailing you to let you know that they have in fact been posted to the email address that you use to register for this webinar. And the next question is, what scale are you considering? So this is, again, goes back to the scale. People are wondering if, individual production line or slipstream might be okay. So again, while full scale is optimal, like I said, we are currently evaluating smaller scale demonstrations. So this is still okay, regardless of size. Again, the demonstration does need to take place at an active facility. And the final question here is, if we want our pilot technology at a power plant. So again, the power plant may not be applicable here, but I think the larger question is about connecting to a host plant or connecting to a technology vendor. Absolutely, we will, if the technology, if you would like to submit you have the option of submitting either a joint application or a single application. If you submit a single application and you'd like to continue the conversation with us, and we can absolutely help you as we're able to. But we do encourage you all to visit our Better Plants partner list, and that's on the DOE website. We can provide that link when we provide the link to the webinar, but we have a partner list there. And so we work very closely with many manufacturing companies, and we could definitely, if a technology seems like a good fit, we can definitely assist in that connection for you. And I am just going to run back to the chat here, see if there are any other questions that have popped up. And if anyone has any other questions, feel free to just pop those into the chat. Okay. I think the questions have come to a close. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to email us. The email is up here on the slides at itv-support@lbl.gov. And we will be responding to you as those come in. Looks like we have one new message. Let me see. So how many applications are in process now? So right now we are reviewing, we will be reviewing all of the applications once the application timeline closes in June 30th. And so we will be reviewing those now. We currently have 5 demonstration projects in progress that we are moving through in phase 1.
There is one more question that came in through the Slido. Is there any interest in USA proven technology that's little known but highly effective?
A USA proven technology?
Yeah.
Okay. If anyone has who asked that question would like to maybe clarify through the chat, we'd be happy to get into that more. But maybe I'll also bring up that we've had a question in the past of whether a technology that maybe did not originate, or was from another country, that could potentially be okay as long as the test site is located in the United States. Okay, it looks like
also just had a question come in about how many additional sites and projects are we adding for phase 2. It's kind of hard to predict an actual number because every validation project really varies such widely in terms of how much it costs. And so we'll do as many projects as we can within our budget, but we really can't predict how many that will be.
And I think that's it for our questions. So Jillian, did you want to wrap up?
Yeah, Paul, did you want to say something? I saw you unmuted.
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, well, yeah, if that's it for questions, then I just wanted to thank everyone so much for joining today. We recognize that you probably have questions that maybe you didn't have a chance to ask. So, just feel free to reach out to us any point with this ITV support email. We're here to help. We're also, willing to really sit down and talk to you and about your specific technology and really dig into the specifics of your situation and kind of help you figure out how the program would best work for you. As Amy said earlier, we're recording this, of course, and we'll be sending out the slides and the recording following. So you'll get an email email with this if you registered. And as a reminder, we are accepting applications for this phase 2 through June 30th. And thank you all for your attention. I hope this was informative, and I hope that you all enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, thank you. Bye, everyone.
I want to stop the recording.